The last light of evening settled over the valley like a fading breath. Clouds drifted across the sky, dimming the moon and turning the world into a landscape of soft silver and weary shadows. The air smelled of dust, smoke, and something older, something tired, as if the land itself wished to sleep after too many troubled nights. At the center of the quiet field lay Alpha King Kalen. He was still, as if carved from stone, his heavy armor cracked in places where the ancient curse had burned through it from within. Though no sword or arrow lay near him now, the invisible weight of the curse pressed upon him, stealing his strength, stealing his breath, and nearly stealing the life he had always believed could not be taken. His people had carried him to the valley in desperate hope, praying that the open sky might ease the spell tightening around him. Yet the moon, pale and distant, offered no blessing. It seemed to watch him with sadness, as though it knew more than any mortal ever could. The Alpha King's eyes were closed, his chest rising only when the wind pushed gently across him, as if trying to remind him how to breathe. His wolf blood, once so strong, so fierce, now felt cold and distant inside him. But even in stillness, he looked like a ruler. His long, dark hair spilled across the grass, touched by faint light. His face, usually sharp with command, was softer now, softened by grief and exhaustion. He was a king who looked like he was dreaming, though the dreams were far from peaceful. For deep inside, Kalen wandered through a fading world of memory and regret. In the quiet space between breath and oblivion, Kalen heard footsteps, soft, light, cautious. They did not belong to any soldier or court healer. These steps moved with a different rhythm, gentle but unshaken, familiar in a way that made something inside him tremble. Then a voice reached him, quiet but steady. "I found you." For a moment, Kalen thought it was only part of his drifting mind. A memory shaped into sound. A ghost of a voice he had tried so hard to forget, even when forgetting had been impossible. But the footsteps grew closer, and the voice spoke again. "Kalen," it whispered, his name trembling on the air like a promise he once refused. "I'm here." Leora stepped into the valley, her breath catching as she finally saw him. Even in this quiet moment, the sight of the injured king made something sharp twist in her chest. Not fear, something deeper, older. A feeling she had once tried to bury beneath duty, silence, and the hollow title the world gave her. Omega. A word that had always felt like a chain. A rank meant for shadows, not power. Yet she had journeyed here with strength she did not know she possessed, guided by an invisible thread since dawn. Something had tugged at her spirit, as if the world itself whispered that she must go, that she must move, that she must reach him before the last grain of time slipped away. Leora stood a few steps away from him now. The king she once thought she could spend her life, avoiding the king, who once rejected the bond the moon had woven between them before birth. Her chest ached softly at the memory. She could still see the moment he had looked at her with cool apology, telling her he could not accept her as his destined one. She remembered the sting of those words, the way they echoed through every part of her. Omegas were used to disappointment, used to being overlooked, but hearing it from him had been different. She had felt the world shift, felt the bond bend, but never fully break. She thought she had moved on. She thought she had buried the hope. But now, standing in front of him again, everything in her heart woke with startling clarity. He looked peaceful, but wrong. A king should not look so still. A wolf-blooded alpha should not lie without strength. The land around him felt muted, as if his very presence had been holding the curse at bay until now. Leora stepped closer, her hands trembling without her permission. She knelt beside him, brushing a strand of hair away from his forehead. His skin felt cool, not cold, but drifting toward it. Her throat tightened. "You stubborn man," she whispered, forcing a strained smile. "You always carried the world, even when it tried to crush you." There was no response, no flicker of movement, but she felt something, a faint pull, like a heartbeat calling for another heartbeat. She pressed her hand against her chest, startled. This strange force had been guiding her all day. She had thought it was fear, or fate, or maybe simple instinct. Now she understood. It was the bond. A bond he had rejected, yet one that refused to die. With slow, careful breaths, Leora placed her hand lightly against his chest. Not pushing, not healing, simply touching, as if offering herself as an anchor. Kaelin felt warmth. Inside the dim space between life and death, Kaelin's drifting mind jolted. A spark, small, but unmistakable, flared in the darkness. He felt a touch. A soft pulse of light. A familiar presence. No, it cannot be her. He tried to speak, but his voice was locked in another world. He tried to open his eyes, but the weight of the curse dragged him back under. Yet the presence did not leave. It grew stronger, brighter, warmer. A light he knew. A light he had pushed away for reasons he never allowed himself to speak aloud. A light that had haunted his dreams every night since he rejected her. Leora. Her name formed in his mind like a breath of wind. Why? Why is she here? He had rejected her to save her. He had rejected her because the prophecy told him that accepting his true mate would seal her fate. He had chosen her life over his happiness, over the bond, over the longing that had nearly broken him. He never expected to see her again. He never wanted her to witness him like this, weak, fading, lost. But she was here, and the curse inside him stirred, as if recognizing the one presence that could disturb its hold. Leora, leave, he tried to whisper. But his lips did not move, and her hand remained on his chest, steady and warm. Leora leaned closer, her eyes soft and searching. She closed her eyes briefly, gathering courage from the silent night. I don't know why I came, she murmured. But something called me. Something wanted me here. Maybe you did. She let her words rest in the quiet space between them. Slowly, she placed her other hand over his heart. Please, she whispered. If even a small part of you can hear me, come back. Don't fade. The wind shifted around them, brushing through the grass in a soft circle. It felt as though the night itself leaned closer. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Kaelin's fingers twitched. Leora gasped softly, her eyes widening. Kaelin? His breathing changed. His chest rose a little deeper, as if her voice had reached him after all. She leaned closer, her lips just inches from his ear. Come back, she whispered, voice breaking. Please. And then, everything around them shifted. The moon broke free of the clouds, casting a pale glow directly upon them. The grass stirred as if waking from sleep. The bond between them pulled tight like a string that had never actually loosened. Leora's heart stilled. Kaelin's eyes snapped open. They glowed with a light she had never seen before, sharp, silver, and wild. He stared at her, and the world held its breath. Kaelin's eyes snapped open, bright as moonlit steel. And for a moment, he did not breathe. The world rushed back to him in a single wave. Cold air, trembling earth, the sound of leaves whispering overhead. But none of those things held him the way the sight in front of him did. Leora. She knelt beside him, her hands still resting over his heart. Her eyes widened, filled with shock, relief, and something he had not seen in them for many years, care. Pure, steady care for him, even after everything he had done. For a long second, neither of them spoke. The wind carried silence around them like a fragile bubble, as if afraid that any loud sound would shatter the moment. Kaelin tried to move, but a sharp wave of weakness pulled through him. His breath struck the cold air as a quiet gasp. Leora's hands instantly pressed more firmly against his chest, steadying him. Don't move. she said softly, her voice gentle but firm. He blinked, struggling to pull his thoughts together. You came, he whispered, his voice rough and broken, like a man who had forgotten how to speak. I had to, she replied. Something called me. Kalen swallowed, his throat tight. He remembered the moments before she touched him, the darkness, the drifting, the near end. He remembered how her presence felt like a rope pulling him back from a deep abyss. He was alive because of her. But that truth brought no comfort, only fear. A deep, painful fear he knew too well. He forced his gaze away from her, as if he could hide the turmoil in his chest. Leora, you shouldn't be here. She frowned. Why not? You don't understand. He closed his eyes for a moment, fighting the weakness, shaking his muscles. The curse is changing. It reacts to you. I know, she whispered. I felt it too, but I'm not leaving. Kalen flinched at her words, not from anger, but from the sharp ache they stirred in him. He didn't want her to stay. He didn't want her to go. Both choices felt dangerous. Leora watched his troubled expression quietly for a moment before speaking again. Can you sit up? I will try. She slipped her arm behind his shoulders, lifting him gently. Even a simple motion, like sitting, sent cold tremors through his body. His breath grew uneven, but he did not collapse. Leora supported him until his back rested against a fallen tree trunk. Kalen shut his eyes briefly as he waited for the weakness to settle. When he opened them again, he found Leora watching him with worry written clearly across her face. You're still fading, she murmured. Yes, he admitted. The curse is not finished. Leora bit her lip. The wind tugged at her long cloak, wrapping it around her like soft shadows. I don't understand how it works, she said. But I know it reacts to you, not to me. Kalen shook his head. No, it reacts because of you, because of the bond. Her breath caught. The bond. The one he rejected. The one that had never truly broken. Leora placed her hands in her lap, her fingers twisting nervously. Kalen, what exactly is happening to you? He hesitated. He had kept the truth hidden for so long, even from his closest counsel. Only one ancient monk knew the full meaning of the prophecy. Only one had warned him that the bond would bring danger to the one he loved. Kalen took a slow, painful breath. Months ago, a seer came to the palace. She spoke of a prophecy connected to me. She said the Alpha King would meet a fate tied to his true mate. Leora's eyes softened, though hurt flickered behind them. And you rejected me because of that? Yes. His voice trembled, with the weight of the truth. Because the prophecy said that if the king accepted his true mate, she would lose her life to save his. I could not allow that. I chose to refuse the bond to protect you. Leora stared at him, not angry, not relieved, just quietly stunned. She looked down at her hands, as if trying to gather herself. You thought rejecting me would protect me. Yes, but it didn't, she whispered. The bond stayed. I know. I felt it every night. I tried to break it, but the more I pushed it away, the stronger the curse grew. It was as if the curse was feeding on the separation itself. Leora reached out and touched his forearm gently. Kalen, you should have told me. His eyes softened, filled with something fragile. I was afraid. I thought if you knew the truth, you would stay close. And if you stayed close, the prophecy might become real. Leora's heart trembled. She remembered the years of silence between them, the distance he created, the way he never looked her in the eye when the moon was full. He had not been cold. He had been frightened. She let out a slow breath. I'm here now. Whatever is happening, we face it together. Kalen's throat tightened. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to lean into her strength, her warmth, her presence. But the curse pulsed sharply within him. as if warning him not to let her too close. Before he could speak, the wind shifted again, this time colder, sharper. Leora immediately turned her head, scanning the area. She felt it before she saw anything. A presence. Not a person. Not a creature. Something else. Something made of air and shadow. A whisper in the grass. A flicker of energy, just at the edge of vision. Kalen felt it too. His hand moved instinctively toward the sword, lying a few feet away. But he could not reach it. Leora placed a calming hand on his arm. Stay still. Kalen clenched his jaw. It's the curse. It senses you. As if responding to his words, the air rippled. A faint shimmer of light wavered above the ground, twisting like mist in a breeze. Leora rose slowly, her eyes fixed on the shifting air. I don't think it wants to hurt me, she said softly. Kalen's eyes widened. Leora. But the shimmer moved closer to her, not him. It circled her like a curious, silent echo. The air grew warmer, brighter. Leora felt the energy brush against her skin, soft as moonlight. It wasn't painful. It wasn't frightening. It felt almost familiar. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Kalen, something is happening. He watched her with growing fear and awe. It feels like... She searched for the right words. Like the moon is touching me. The shimmering light expanded, swirling around her in a slow, gentle dance. Her hair lifted as if weightless, the ends glowing faintly. Kalen's breath caught in his throat. Leora, your eyes! She opened them. They glowed with a faint silver light. Not bright, not blinding, just enough to show that something ancient stirred inside her. Leora touched her chest, startled. What is this? Kalen's heart thudded unevenly. It is something I feared, something the prophecy hinted at. Leora looked at him, waiting. He swallowed hard. You are not just an Omega. She blinked. What do you mean? You are a Lunara, he whispered. A moon-born Omega. A rare soul born once in 1,000 years. Your presence can calm an alpha or strengthen one. Or awaken forces older than time. Leora took a step back in shock. That can't be true. It is, Kalen said softly. And the curse reacts to that power. It reacts to you. The shimmering light faded slowly, dissolving back into the air. Leora's glow dimmed, though a faint silver hue still lingered in her eyes. She stood silently for a long moment, hands trembling as she wrapped her cloak tighter around herself. Everything she knew about herself, every limitation, every label felt suddenly small. As if she had stepped into a world that expected more from her than she ever thought she could give. Finally, she looked at Kalen again. Kalen's voice was quiet, strained, and full of emotions he could no longer hide. Now, we run. The curse draws attention. The palace will send envoys. Enemies will sense my weakness. And your power will draw even more. Leora nodded slowly. Then, we leave at once. He met her gaze with trembling gratitude. You would stay with me? After everything? She lifted him carefully, helping him rise to his feet. We walk together, she said softly. Whatever this bond is, whatever this power is, we face it, side by side. Kalen felt a warmth in his chest, stronger than the curse, stronger than fear. But just as that warmth settled, a soft rumble echoed across the valley. Leora froze. Kalen's breath turned cold. A shadow moved along the distant tree line, slow, deliberate, watching. Someone or something had found them. The shadow at the edge of the forest did not move at first, it simply watched. Silent. Patient. Almost curious. Leora kept one arm around Kalen to steady him, while her other hand tightened around the edge of her cloak. The cool breeze brushed their faces, carrying a soft whisper through the trees. Kalen felt the presence clearly, even through the weakness still clinging to him. "We cannot stay here," he murmured, his voice low. Leora nodded. "Can you walk?" "I must," he replied, even though his legs trembled under their own weight. She shifted her stance, letting him lean more onto her. Step by slow step, they moved toward the small path leading out of the valley. The shadow did not follow, but Leora felt its eyes tracing their movements, as if memorizing every detail. Once they reached the edge of the trees, Kalen finally spoke again. "It was not a creature," he said. "The presence we sensed." Leora glanced at him. "Then what was it?" "A watcher," he said softly. "Something that observes great changes. Something that waits for signs of destiny." Leora's heart skipped. "Was it watching me?" "And me," Kalen replied. "But mostly, the bond." He took a slow breath. "Your awakening has already been noticed by forces that do not belong to any kingdom." Leora swallowed, unsure whether to feel frightened or strengthened by his words. She had never seen herself as powerful. Not once. And yet here she was, walking with a king who relied on her, while the shadows of the world seemed to stir at her presence. The forest path was soft with fallen leaves, glowing faintly beneath the thin moonlight. As they moved deeper between the tall trees, Leora felt the tension leave her shoulders little by little. The air was warm here, touched by the scent of moss and gentle earth. Birds stirred sleepily in their nests, unaware of the tremor of fate passing beneath them. After a few minutes, she guided Kalen to a large fallen log. "Sit," she said gently. "Just for a moment." He obeyed without protest. The curse was silent for now, but its silence felt like the calm before a storm. He leaned forward slightly, his hair falling like a dark curtain around his face. Leora watched him with quiet worry. "Does it hurt?" He shook his head. "Not pain. More like pressure." His hand brushed lightly against his chest. "It grows heavier each time the bond strengthens." Leora lowered her gaze. "I didn't mean to make it worse." "You didn't," he said firmly. "The curse reacts because it fears you. Or rather, what you may become." She blinked. "What do you mean?" Kalen lifted his head, meeting her eyes. "Lunara are rare, Leora. They hold a magic the moon once used to keep balance among the wolf-blooded line. You can calm an alpha or lift one to greater heights. Or if mistreated, you can release forces that reshape kingdoms." Leora inhaled sharply. "I've never done anything like that." "You just awakened," Kalen replied. "And when a Lunara awakens, destinies shift." Leora hugged her cloak closer to her body. The forest felt suddenly larger, as though hearing their conversation and sending whispers through the wind. "Why now?" she asked quietly. "Why did I awaken tonight, after all these years?" Kalen hesitated. "Because I called for you." Her breath caught. "You called me?" "Not with my voice," he said, "but with my heart. When I was slipping away, when the curse nearly ended me, I reached for the one soul I could never let go." Leora felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she held his gaze. "Kalen, why did you hide this from me? All these years?" "Because I wanted you safe." His voice trembled with regret. "I believed distance would protect you. I thought if I pushed you away, the prophecy would lose power." She sat beside him on the log, staring at the moonlight, filtering through the branches above. "But it didn't." No," he said quietly. "It only made the curse stronger." They sat in silence for a moment, the forest humming softly around them. Even without speaking, a pull existed between them. Steady, warm, unmistakable. The bond had never faded. It had simply waited for the right moment to rise. Leora noticed Kalen's breathing grow lighter, calmer. She placed her hand on his arm. Are you feeling better? Somewhat. His voice carried a note of surprise. You calm the curse. Without trying. That's good, she whispered. It is, he agreed. But it also means my life and yours may now be tied more closely than before. Leora turned to him. What are you afraid of? He paused. Not because he did not know the answer, but because speaking it felt like placing it into the open air, where it could no longer hide. I fear the prophecy, he said at last. I fear losing you. The simple honesty in his voice made her heart tighten. Leora placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. And I fear losing you too. Kaelin's eyes widened, as if her words struck him more deeply than any weapon ever could. He looked down at her hand on his shoulder. Then at her face. Leora. Yes? He hesitated, battling between wanting to speak and wanting to protect her. I do not deserve your care. Maybe not, she said softly. But I give it anyway. His breath stopped for a moment, quiet and stunned. Before either could speak again, the forest fell silent, unnaturally silent. No wind, no birds, no rustle of leaves. Kaelin's hand moved instinctively toward his side, even though no weapon rested there. Something approaches. Leora stood, scanning the trees. Another watcher? No, he murmured. This presence is familiar. The air shifted, and a tall figure stepped from between two ancient trees. Silver armor glimmered under the moonlight, polished like a mirror. His dark hair was tied neatly, his expression calm, but unreadable. The stranger bowed his head slightly. Alpha King Kaelin. His voice was smooth, carrying a regal tone. I am glad to find you alive. Leora narrowed her eyes. Who are you? The man looked at her with polite curiosity. I am Prince Silas of the North Court. I followed the signs of the curse. His gaze shifted to Kaelin again. Our seers predicted your fall tonight. The court is uneasy. Kaelin's shoulders tensed. You came alone? Yes, Silas replied. For now. To see the truth with my own eyes. Silas stepped closer, his posture respectful but firm. Your weakness has spread throughout the land, Kaelin. Many believe the throne may turn unstable. Leora stepped protectively in front of Kaelin without thinking, her stance sharp and instinctive. Silas raised an eyebrow at the gesture. And who, Silas asked slowly, is this? Kaelin answered before she could speak. Leora. Silas's expression shifted surprise. Recognition. Calculation. The Omega you once rejected? Kaelin stiffened, but Leora spoke before he could correct him. Yes. Silas nodded slowly. Interesting. Very interesting. His eyes locked on her. Not unkindly, but with an intensity that made Leora's heart beat sharply. You possess moonlight within you, Silas said. The forest reacted to you when I arrived. Leora took a step back. I didn't do anything. You awakened, Silas said simply. And the land felt it. He turned to Kaelin again. A Lunara, beside a cursed king. This combination will change everything. Kaelin clenched his jaw. Silas, what do you want? To offer safety. Silas said calmly. Leora, you would be safer in my court. The curse cannot reach you there. Kaelin straightened despite his weakness. She is not leaving. Silas looked between them, reading the tension with quiet amusement. Ah. So, the bond lives. Leora swallowed. She could feel Kaelin's fear rising at Silas's words. Silas folded his hands behind his back. The North Court can protect her from the prophecy. Can you? Kaelin? The question pierced the quiet like a hidden arrow. Kaelin looked away, unable to answer. Silas watched them both with a patient, almost gentle expression. Think carefully. She has a destiny far greater than either of you imagined. And if she stays with you, she may pay a high price. Leora felt the weight of those words sink into her chest. Kalen tried to speak, but the curse pulsed sharply through him, forcing him to grip the log for support. Leora immediately steadied him, her touch calming the tremor. Silas's eyes narrowed. The curse reacts when she is near. Interesting. Kalen glared at him weakly. Leave her out of this. Silas sighed softly. I only offer what you cannot provide safety. Leora felt torn. Silas's court could protect her. Kalen could not promise her that. Staying with him meant stepping deeper into danger. But leaving him felt wrong. It felt like tearing a thread that had held her soul for years. Silas extended a hand toward her. Think, Leora. You are powerful. You can be more than a shadow beside a fading king. Kalen lowered his head, shame clouding his features. Leora's breath trembled. Then she stepped toward Kalen, slowly but confidently, placing her hand on his shoulder. Where he goes, she said softly. I go. Silas stared, stunned for the first time. But before he could speak, the moon above them flickered, dimming suddenly. A low hum filled the air. The curse surged inside Kalen. His eyes widened. And then he collapsed. Kalen collapsed like a tree cut at the base. One moment, he was standing, holding onto Leora's hand, steadying his breath, and the next, his body gave out, without warning. His knees hit the forest floor softly, and then he crumpled completely. Leora caught him before he fell fully. Her arms wrapped around him with pure instinct, pulling him close as if holding him tightly could stop the curse from slipping deeper into him. Kalen! Her voice cracked, fear trembling through every syllable. He did not answer. His eyes remained closed, his breathing uneven and faint. Not gone, but faint. Too faint. Silas stepped forward sharply, worry briefly breaking through his composed mask. The curse is rising, he said. This is what happens when a Lunara and a cursed king stand too close. His body cannot hold the pressure. Leora ignored him. She lowered Kalen gently onto the soft leaves, her hands shaking as she brushed the hair away from his face. Please open your eyes, she whispered. Please don't slip away again. Kalen remained still. His chest rose and fell, but each breath felt slower than the one before it. The trees around them seemed to tighten their branches inward, as if the forest itself sensed the danger. The moon above flickered again, its light trembling like a candle in a weak breeze. Silas knelt beside them. We must move him, he said. There is a shrine not far from here. The moon's energy gathers there. He may survive if... No. Leora pulled Kalen closer. He doesn't need a shrine. He needs me. Silas stared at her, confused. This curse will only grow stronger around you. That's because I'm holding back, Leora whispered, surprising even herself. Silas blinked. Holding back? Leora looked down at Kalen, her fingers lightly tracing the line of his jaw. I've been trying to control the awakening, trying to stop whatever is inside me. She took a trembling breath. But the curse is tied to our bond. If I don't accept what I am, he won't survive. Silas opened his mouth as if to argue, but then stopped. Something in Leora's voice, something unshaken and certain, silenced him. For centuries, Silas said quietly, Lunara have been either feared or hidden. Many were told to not use their power until they lost it. He paused. Of gourd purposes. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps the only way is forward. Leora nodded once, her decision fixed. She placed both hands over Kalen's heart. Her palms glowed faintly, a pale silver light forming beneath her skin. The forest air warmed, and the ground beneath them vibrated softly. Silas stepped back, watching with a cautious expression. If you do this, you cannot turn away from the path that follows. Leora did not look up. I wasn't meant to turn away. Inside the darkness of his fading consciousness, Kalen drifted. He felt weightless, floating in a quiet place where time did not exist. He heard nothing, saw nothing, only darkness that stretched endlessly, like a dream without shape. And yet something tugged at him, a soft thread. A small, warm pull that began in the quiet space under his ribs. He knew that feeling. Leora. Her voice, distant and soft, reached him like a gentle breeze. Come back. Please. Don't fade. Kalen tried to respond, but no sound came. The curse wrapped around him like a heavy fog, thick and suffocating. It pulled him deeper, whispering that rest would be easier, that sleep would take away all fear, all regret. But the warmth inside him grew stronger. It beat like a pulse. It glowed like a lantern. It called his name again and again. He could almost feel her hands on his chest, steady and warm. He could almost see her silver glowing eyes through the darkness. And in that moment, he realized something. He was not afraid of death. He was afraid of leaving her alone. Kalen reached for the warmth with all he had left. In the real world, Leora's glow grew brighter. Silver light spread from her hands like ripples on water, wrapping gently around Kalen. His breath grew a little deeper, signaling that something inside him was responding. Good, Silas said under his breath. He feels your call. Leora closed her eyes. I accept the bond, she whispered. The moonlight above them flared. Warm air swirled gently around her, lifting her hair and cloak as if embracing her. Her heartbeat steadied, and she felt a soft vibration echoing through her bones. She let the power rise slowly at first, then freely. Silver threads of energy wrapped around Kalen, sinking into his chest like sunlight warming frozen earth. His body jerked lightly. Leora kept her palms steady. Come back to me, she whispered again, softer than a prayer. Inside the darkness, Kalen felt warmth break through, like light piercing through thick fog, like someone pulling him upward with gentle hands. The curse tried to hold him down, but the warmth strengthened. He felt it fill his lungs, his chest, his heart, and finally, he opened his eyes. Silver light burst outward, showering the forest floor with soft sparks like falling stars. Leora gasped and pulled her hands back just slightly. Kalen? He blinked slowly, his eyes glowing faintly but no longer dim with weakness. His breathing steadied, deeper than before. The curse still lived inside him, but its strength had lessened. He looked at her, his voice hoarse. Leora, you brought me back. Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was going to lose you again. Kalen reached up with a trembling hand and touched her cheek, brushing away a tear. Not while you're here. Silas watched them quietly, his expression softer now. The bond is fully awakened, he said. The curse is not gone, but it is no longer consuming you. Kalen slowly sat up, still supported by Leora. It means, Silas said, that your lives are tied now. Her strength stabilizes your curse. Your presence awakens her power. You rise and fall together. Leora's breath trembled. Then, we go together. Kalen looked at her, seeing the truth in her eyes, strength, fear, hope, all mixed into one gentle expression. He nodded. Together. Silas straightened. Your return to the kingdom will not be easy. Factions are preparing for change. Some will see Leora as a blessing. Others will fear her. Number 4 point. Will fear her. Leora met his gaze calmly. Let them fear or bless. I won't hide. Silas smiled faintly. Good. Before they could speak further, a soft howl echoed from the distant hills. Low. Long. Filled with warning. Leora's eyes lifted toward the sound. What was that? Kalen listened carefully, his face tightening. Not a wolf blood. Something else. Silas nodded. A new force has awakened tonight. The same moment your bond strengthened. What does that mean? Leora asked. Silas stepped back and looked toward the dark horizon. The prophecy had a final line, a line even our seers feared. His voice dropped softly. When the bond of moon and king rises, another power rises to oppose it. Leora felt her heartbeat quicken. Oppose us? Yes, Silas said. Something ancient. Something that will not welcome your bond. The howl echoed again, closer this time. Kalen rose fully to his feet with Leora's help. His strength was not complete, but determination filled his posture. Then, it begins now. Leora's silver glow dimmed, but did not fade entirely. She stood beside him, her hand slipping into his without hesitation. Silas gave a single respectful bow. Whatever comes next, know this tonight. The moon chose you both, and the world will soon feel the change. Ah! The wind shifted, carrying the distant howl through the trees once more. Leora squeezed Kalen's hand. We face it together. He squeezed back. Together. And as the moon brightened above them, painting the forest in silver light, the bond between them glowed like a quiet promise. A promise strong enough to face the storm rising beyond the hills.